you were wondering, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, fear not, my good friends, for we at the Black Tower Podcast have convened once again to bring you the conclusion of the aforementioned subject for which you yearn and thirst so mightily for. I speak, of course, of the visions of Rhuidean, when Randall Thor and his compatriots and companions enter the Crystal Forest and view the visions from their genetic pasts. Ooh! Welcome back! I am Josh.
I am Daniel.
And I am Andrew.
And we are just so happy to be here with you. So happy to see you again. And as I said, we are covering the last bits of the visions from Rhuidean that are seen from the point of view of our good friend and protagonist, Mr. Randall Thor, the Lord Dragon. May he shine in the light forever.
I thought we were about to summon Captain Planet there for a second.
We almost did.
Yeah.
Hey, dude.
If we had two more people here.
Yeah. If we had two more people.
But
could
I'm
it be
hard.
the was it Dan Cheadle version of Captain Planet?
Yes! Respect the
Not
planet,
Dan,
or I'll
Don.
turn
It's
you
Don
into
Cheadle.
a fucking tree.
Don Cheadle.
Yeah, Don Cheadle.
You can call him Dan.
Sorry, Iron Patriot.
I'm Hart.
You want to be Hart?
Also, I'm here to tell you, all y'all people who are listening to this lovely episode here, that we gonna get into some stuff. We already got into some stuff last time, but definitely if you have not read The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, The Dragon Reborn, and The Shadow Rising in their entirety,
True.
and the prologue of... Fuck, what's the fifth one? The prologue of the fifth book, then don't even listen.
You mean
Go
Fires of Heaven?
fix yourself, unless you... Yeah, Fires of Heaven. Unless you really want to go ahead and have things spoiled, because... and you will actually see in a moment why. We will definitely be talking about some stuff from the earlier books, as well as quite a bit centering on the Shadow Rising, and maybe a little tiny bit from the prologue of Fires of Heaven. So you have been warned.
Indeed.
Don't feel bad. I just had to look at the books and count to see which one was the fifth one.
Yeah,
No.
I feel like an idiot.
Now, guys, bear with us for a moment because there is a lot of information here. And as some of our listeners have pointed out, we've had some storyline happy accidents, as Bob Ross would call them. It is, I mean, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of book, and we do our best to go cover the information accurately. But I will say this: we absolutely do love it when you guys call us out and say, "Hey, you got this wrong, or you messed that up, or you missed this, or you got that in the wrong order." We love it because, I mean, it gives us a chance to talk about it some more. I mean, which we all love. And B, it gives us a chance to go, oh my gosh, you're right. And we remember a little bit more about the story. So, please don't ever feel like you're stepping on our toes or you're going to upset us or anything like that, unless you're being a dick about it.
Yeah. So speaking of corrections,
so point it out. Yeah. We love it.
So speaking of corrections, let's go ahead and go over the two that we got in the Discord. JD the Wanderer, which you guys will know from previously being on the podcast, pointed out that we still got the Portal Stones wrong, that Flamme was in the Great Hunt and Rhuidean is in Shadow Rising. Falma. Okay.
Yeah, so I actually just want to touch on that for a second. I know that we actually all got this right in our heads, but we definitely did not say it out loud correctly because, okay, very quickly, let's just go through the events of Randall Thor as the Dragon Reborn. He goes to the stone. He does some stuff, or in the Great Hunt. he's on his way to the stone effectively. Or again, sorry, I'm too far ahead. So in the Great Hunt, he leaves Shinar, and he goes out with some companions to go hunt the Horn of Valir that has been stolen from Shinar. On the journey there, he accidentally uses a portal stone and brings himself, Loyal, and the thief taker from Shinar to another reality.
Is that Huron or
Huron? Yeah. And
that's right. And
they
get hunted by Lopar, I think.
They what?
They get hunted by Lopar, the animals. In this alternate,
yeah, kind of.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Lopar or
I think
Golem?
I
thought they were.
I think
Golem.
it's Golem. Golam, not to be confused with the ones created to hunt Chandler.
Gotcha.
Well,
Anyway,
they first come across them when they find Celine, and she's being attacked by Golem.
Yes, and and Rand al'Thor saves her using a bow, even though what she really wants to do is have him use the power.
Yeah. Right.
Because, as we all know, Celine is not who Celine purports to be.
Correct. She's Lanfear. Yeah. So anyway, they're running around doing that, and they end up getting way further ahead of the group that they were with, as well as ahead of the shadow spawn that they are hunting. Yeah. And they go to another portal stone, and Celine convinces Rand that he can use it and has him use it. And he uses it somewhat successfully at that point.
Yeah.
On purpose. It's a little rough, like he doesn't really know what he's doing and he's just kind of floundering in the dark. But he does successfully get them from the sort of alternate parallel reality that they are back to the one that they belong.
Because the one he accidentally brings them into is a reality where the Trollocs and the Force of the Shadow have dynamically won.
Correct. It seems like they have won the Trolloc
It's
Wars.
A barren, destitute, dead land. There's signs
where
of
colors are weird and time is weird. Yeah, it's a mess.
And this is like the most successful attempt he has. Because the next one goes far.
Yes. No. Actually, that's not true. The one right before they go to Rhuidean is actually the most successful one. Because in this one, he's kind of, as I said, he's floundering in the dark, but he does manage to make it happen. Right. Then they go and they get the Horn of Valir. Then they regroup with the other Shinaran soldiers who were part of their party when they left Shinar. Those Shinaran soldiers are the ones that he ends up fucking up with royally. Because they're way on the other side of the world, actually closer to the spine of the world and closer to the Isle Waste than they are when they use the Portal Stone to get to Rhuidean. But Rand has this threat from Padan Fain that he needs to come and meet him on Toman Head.
Yeah. Right.
And so he does. And he takes the Shinaran soldiers, including Loyal and Huron and Lord Ingtar and Matt and Perrin and all of this group that was hunting the Horn, and brings them to Falma to meet Padan Fain. And this is the point where all of those people see all of their lives.
Because Varen is with them, right?
Because he tries to... Varen is with them. Because
she's like, this is wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. And she actually joins them because she is in Shinar with the Amerlin's seat when she shows up at the very beginning of the Great Hunt. And then Swan Sanche goes back to the tower. But Varen and a couple of other Aes Sedai that were with her stay, because they're actually the ones that go down into the dungeons and read all of the Trolloc script that is written on the walls and whatnot. And they're studying it and they're commenting on it when everybody else is just vomiting.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, Varen is with them, and so is Alana. Varen and Alana are both.
That
there.
winds up being an important event
and
because I think that event is credited a lot with showing Ingtar the different lives he could have had and how he could be better. And I think he even talks
Correct.
about that, how he saw how he could have lived life differently and a lot better. And he's like, let me do this last thing to atone.
Yeah, in fact. And so they show up in Falma because the Horn of Valir has been stolen again. And it's now in Falma. And they go to get it. What?
I said, hot item that. I wonder why everybody wants it.
It really is. And so they go to Falma, but they're 2 months late. And things have progressed a lot faster than they wanted them to because this is no longer a shortcut. Now, granted, it's probably, again, as I said in the last episode, it's probably still less time than they would have taken trying to actually make it there on foot. But if they had taken a ship, for example, it probably would have taken less time. So they haven't really saved much time.
It took them, 3 months,
and then they get to Falma.
I thought it was 3 months that passed. Oh, okay. I can't really remember.
It's either 2 or 3. I'm pretty sure that it's 2, but I've been wrong before. I mean, we're literally doing a correction right now. But
so that's in the Shadow Rising, right? Or is that Dragon?
Oh, no. This is all in
right.
Great Hunt. All of this that's happening is in Great Hunt. And so they get to Falma, they go and they steal the Horn of Valir and the Quendiar seal from Lord, or the Shan Chan, Lord, I do not remember his name because all I'm getting is Suroth right now, but that's wrong. It's the male blood who's there. And he's a blade master, and Rand
Turok.
beats him. High Lord Turok, there we go. Which Suroth and Turok are so similar, which is, gah. But I love it. I love the consistency, but also it's hard to keep them straight. But anyway, so they go and steal the Horn of Valir and the Quendiar seal that was given to High Lord Turok by Bael Domin from his manor there in Falma, and then they run off, and that is the point where Lord Ingtar gives them time to escape by sacrificing himself because he cannot actually live with who he has become, partially, as stated by Andrew, and very apropos, partially because he sees who he could have been in those visions from the Portal Stone.
Right.
And so that is the moment at which they get out of the city. Perrin and Matt are totally screwed because they are being beset on a number of sides, and Matt blows the Horn of Valir and calls down the heroes of legend, and then there's a big fight that happens there, and Rand fights Balzaman in the sky.
Yes.
So that's all that happens, and again, one of the reasons that we were mistaking it, I think, is because instead of the Aiel, it's the Shienarans, who are a lot like Aiel as far as their battle prowess and whatnot. So they are hard men doing hard things. And that gives a lot of them a lot to think about in their lives, and most of them throw up.
Right.
But anyway... So that is the actual events. I do apologize for actually getting that wrong. It is actually the third time that Rand consciously uses a portal stone that gets them to Rhuidean, or the slopes of Chandar, if you will. And again, that is his most successful attempt. The first time he does it unintentionally. The second time he kind of does it, and it works out fine, but he doesn't really know what he's doing, and he says so. The third time he totally fucks up, wastes a bunch of time, and mentally scars a bunch of people. The fourth time he gets it perfect.
Oh, I found it.
And then he's like,
both wrong.
I'm never doing that again.
We were both wrong.
How long is it?
It states the Varen states that 4 months have passed.
4? Are you?
Unless there's a typo in the overview that encyclopedia-wt.org did for
I doubt it. That's
It's chapter
probably
30. If anyone wants to
So-
fact check for us or fact check us on this correction as it is, it's chapter 37, what might be.
Indeed. So anyway, definitely going back and doing that correction. Now we are in Rhuidean,
We have the one more correction.
and we are
The order,
Oh, yeah.
the order.
Sorry.
Jacko Shadows in Discord was kind enough to clarify the order in which our lovely party goes into Rhuidean. It's Moraine, then Matt and Rand, then Avienda. Because Matt makes the comment to Rand that he thought he saw Avienda run naked past them, and Rand's like, "You're seeing things,"
That's right. Rand's like, what? No way.
which is kind of funny because that means Matt saw Avienda naked before Rand did.
Ayo.
actually I don't know if that's
Dark
true.
One's own luck.
I mean,
Matt.
you're not really like, I don't know.
Because before they, I mean, the wise ones do absolutely, without a doubt, set Avienda to going ahead and watching Rand after this.
Oh,
It's not before.
That's true.
But she and he had a little bit of a weird relationship even from the beginning, and we all know that Aiel do things like have people walk in on them naked on purpose on accident.
Yes.
With some regularity. So
Well, I think even after
hi.
as Avienda, and of course this is well, you know this by Fires of Heaven. Well, it happens in Fires of Heaven. So if you've read the prologue of Fires of Heaven, you've probably read the whole book. But you can see it happening before then. Avienda slowly becomes more and more accustomed to Wetlander ways. There's a point where she is game with the whole "don't look at me naked." Which ultimately is what leads to a certain event in Fires of Heaven, the best event in the entire series.
yes.
But
Also, I will throw out there that this is an interesting thing because we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, and I do apologize.
don't apologize. Be you, boo boo.
Spoiler warning on the whole series for just a moment. So if you haven't read the whole thing, skip 30 seconds ahead. We do actually find out that Avienda sees that she's going to be in love with Rand, and it's a little bit chicken and egg here because the question is, was she in love with Rand? And then she saw herself in love with Rand, and she was just like, okay, well, now I don't know what to do because I was just going to push that down, and now I've actually got to deal with it. Or was she not really in love with Rand, but could be in love with Rand, and then goes ahead and sees herself in love with Rand, and then goes, well, I get to guess this is my life now.
Well, I mean, that's
It's hard to say what actually causes what.
That's the problem with all.
Isn't it like a Confucian parable?
prophecy?
Those that often try to
It's
avoid
the-
their future often cause it.
Yeah.
A man often
It's
meets
the
his destiny on the
predetermination.
road he takes to avoid it.
I don't think that's what
That's
Confucius was getting at whenever he said it, but
It was Master Rookwood.
Predestination.
anyway. So are we
All
ready to
right.
start with Rand's fifth vision in the crystalline-esque forest in Rhuidean?
Yes.
All right, so the
Indeed.
fifth vision is aptly titled "The Tuathons Split from the Daishine IL." In this one, Rand is Adon, son of Jonai. So
We've seen.
So the Daishine Ale are of course led by Adon, and they're attacked again by a miscellaneous barbaric people, and many of them are killed. They lose all their horses, and they take all the objects that the Aes Sedai have trusted the Aiel to carry. They throw them out of the wagons, and they instead fill the wagons with the Aiel women and female children, the daughters. Adon holds his grandson and granddaughter safe in a sandy hollow and is crying. And of course, by this point, he has lost his wife and his last son. He's only left with his grandchildren. His last daughter, Rhea, is shoved up into one of the wagons like an animal. And this makes Adon think about how he lost Elwyn, who starved to death at the age of 10. Sorella, who was taken by a fever at the age of 20 after she dreamed about it coming. Jaren, who threw himself off a cliff a year ago at the age of 19 when he found out he could channel. And Marind that morning when they were attacked. He thinks of trying to save Rhea, but figures they'll just kill me and take my grandchildren too, or kill them, so he decides not to do anything. The attackers leave, correct, and he emerges from his hiding hole to see the body of his wife, a red gold-haired Siedre, and notices that she looks like she's only sleeping. I think he makes a remark, if it wasn't for the bloodstain, it would look like she was only sleeping, and recalls waking up to her each morning. Then there's a Daishain El called Sulwyn that comes leading a group of frightened men, asking Aden to tell them what they should do now. Sulwyn and some of the other Aiel have let their hair grow long, as if they're trying to hide being Aiel, but it makes no difference to any of the raiders. Aden replies simply with bury their dead and go on. And Sulwyn points out that without horses and wagons, they can't just go on, also questioning the value of the objects that the Aes Sedai entrusted them with, who also states that they never came back to take them, but they're supposed to give their lives to protect him. And this is where Aden gets a little annoyed, and we can, we will. We have legs, we have backs. We will drag the wagons if need be. We will be faithful to our duty. Sulwyn, of course, is like, fuck that shit.
Duty.
We need to find somewhere to be safe. And he talks about, Aden talks about the stories, or Sulwyn talks about the stories that he heard from his grandfather when the Aiel lived in safety and people came to hear them sing. And says, we mean to find a place where we can be safe and sing again. Aden argues that we should not give up the duty to the Aes Sedai to chase after wondrous songs that have been lost forever. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
So here's another thing that's about to sound familiar. Sulwyn and his followers unload some of the wagons they were left with, throwing down the Aes Sedai object. Aden sees a large flat crate falling, half breaking open to reveal a polished door frame of dark red stone.
Ooh, ominous.
He says to Sulwyn that he is no longer Aiel, as he betrays everything and he is lost, but Sulwyn reminds him, we keep the way of the leaf as well as you, Aden. Aden looks at the objects and the wounded laying around and sadly thinks about how he could save everything and everyone. He sees Sarlene, the wife of his son, mother of Mograine and Luwin, and is glad that she managed to live. And he tells himself that he would save the Aiel whatever it takes. Kneeling, he gathered Siedre in his arms. We are still faithful, Aes Sedai, he whispered. How long must we be faithful? Putting his head down on his wife's breast, he wept. And that is the end of the fifth vision.
You know, the Aiel, and as we learned in the last episode, the Aiel and the Tuathan, God, these people are just fucked. Yeah. I mean, 7 ways from Sunday, man. I don't know what they did as a people to deserve to be so. You know, I think that's, and we've talked a lot about this in the previous episode, why the Aiel have such a deep sense of honor and duty, or Giato, because their entire existence is based, and we learn more about, you know, honor and duty later on in the visions, but the fact that, you know, you've got some of these guys is a very realistic reaction as well. Some of these people are going, this isn't worth it. I don't care what the Aes Sedai charged us to do. This isn't worth it. People are dying. We're not doing this anymore. And, you know, some people are going, no, we are, this is what we're going to do. This is who we are, and this is what we're going to do. But, you know, at this point in time, we don't know why they feel that way. Why do they feel like they are who they are? And why do they have such an honor-bound duty to serve the Aes Sedai?
Well, the thing I find interesting is the modern Aiel say that they're cursed to live in the Threefold Land because of an oath they broke. And I can't recall if it's ever 100% explicitly explained if the oath they broke that they refer to is their oath to the Aes Sedai, Is it?
It is.
No.
Okay.
It is.
So that's
At least, sorry,
Well,
that's not necessarily true.
partially.
All of the clan chiefs and the wise ones absolutely, without a doubt, know that. And they often say that coupled with, we failed the Aes Sedai once, therefore we won't do it again. So I
Right.
feel like everybody else in the clans at least has some sense that the promise that they broke, or the oath that they broke, or the, you know, whatever it was that they betrayed was to the Aes Sedai in some way. Though it doesn't seem like any of the non-clan chiefs or wise ones really understand the
and that's
gravity.
the thing I was getting at,
But-
is they always mention how they failed the Aes Sedai once, they would not do it again. But there's also the oath for the oath to the lifestyle of the Way of the Leaf. Because they never say we
Right.
broke our
And
broke
that's-
our oath to the Aes Sedai. Because when they talk about being cursed to live in the threefold land, it's because of an oath they broke. And they see it as they failed their
Correct.
oath to the Aes Sedai, not really broke it, but they broke their
Right.
binds to the Way of the Leaf.
And remember, and they actually cover this later on in some of the visions, who the Aiel are and why they feel like they broke an oath to the Aes Sedai, and why they're transporting all these objects in the first place. That is something that is actually covered.
Correct.
later on
And
in
there
these
is something to
visions.
go with the name. They
Yes.
call the waste the threefold land. Well, the symbol of the Way of the Leaf is a leaf of Avendesora, which is a threefold
Yes.
leaf. So
Yes.
there might
You mean a
Yeah.
trefoil?
Oh.
So there might be something to pull from there that it's so unspeakable to go back, because before Rand is there, he doesn't. Nobody other than the clan chiefs and the wise ones know. As Couladin makes abundantly fucking obvious that they're all ignorant to the truth of their heritage. But I think I think it's like I think it's almost like an Aes Sedai way of talking when they always couple with failing their oath to the we failed the Aes Sedai once, we will not do it again. It's their way of saying, well, we failed our oath to the Way of the Leaf, but we also failed the Aes Sedai.
Right.
Well, we broke an oath to the lifestyle that we pledged to live, but we failed the Aes Sedai as well, and we won't do that again. Because I think they see living in the
Right.
waste as their penance for breaking from the Way of the Leaf. At least the clan chiefs and wise ones do.
It's also good to note that most Aes Sedai don't remember either.
Oh yeah, none of the Aes Sedai do.
None of the modern Aes Sedai that we know in the modern age have any idea about
Well, and
the
and I
Aiel
love-
and why they have such a
Oh yeah, because
strict
when Moraine
code
finds
of
the
honor
stash
and-
of
Right.
Angreal that are in Rhuidean, yeah, she's
She
like,
about
"Holy
shits herself."
fuck, there's this many
She
that even
does.
exist. We need all of these. Take them all.
right?
It's easy.
Well, no, and one of my
Easy
favorites
to
is
call.
like, again, this is one of those Aes Sedai failing moments so hard in terms of the like, and again, this is very human nature. Let me be very clear. I love how every single Aes Sedai who hears about it, the Aiel are like, "Oh yeah, we failed the Aes Sedai once. We won't do it again." And the Aiel are like, "Yeah, see that it doesn't happen again."
yeah, and the Aes Sedai are just like, oh yeah,
another
uh-huh.
quick correction.
Yeah,
thanks.
don't you dare fail us again. Who are
Another quick
these
correction. We have not seen Jonai yet, but we're about to.
Rand is
In the
Jonah,
next vision.
son.
I said that we've
Kuman.
seen Adon.
Oh,
Adon
okay,
was the
sorry.
one
I
who
misunderstood.
we
I thought-
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah,
my bad.
not Jonai.
So clarification, I
Jonai
guess.
is the
Well,
star,
at least for me.
of the sixth vision.
Yes.
But
Sure.
here's the fun part. So as Rand steps out of the fifth vision, once again, one step, and all of a sudden he's halfway through the crystal forest, can't see where he is, doesn't know where he is, isn't sure of anything at this point in time. All he sees is Muradin, who is really
rough.
not doing good.
Has he
right now.
started
Yeah.
clawing his eyes out yet, or is that later?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is the point where he actually is losing
Yeah,
his
absolutely
shit.
losing all sanity.
Because this is Yeah, he's gone.
Well, and this is the terrifying thing. They talk about people going into the Crystal Forest and dying on a regular basis. So where are the bodies?
Well, so interestingly enough, this may or may not be the same-ish situation as we don't actually really see what's happening in the crystal columns. We only see Rand go in and out. So it may actually be a similar situation to what the Aes Sedai and the Wise Ones go through, where they actually just disappear.
Right.
And then if they don't come back from the vision, like if they don't actually finish the thing, the way comes back only once.
Right. Be steadfast.
And so if you don't end up making it to that point, I mean, it is more active in the Aes Sedai Wise One test, if you will, because they actually have to make the choice.
We know from
to come back. It's a little bit more passive in some ways in the crystal columns, or in the glass columns, if you will, because Rand doesn't really need to bring himself back. But it's also possible that some people just don't make it through the whole vision and they just die in the vision, and then they're just gone.
Yep.
Because they were actually physically.
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar at Terangrial as the testing rings used in the White Tower. And they've already stated that if you lose sight of your goal and you fail to reach your goal to come out of the test, that you could be lost forever.
Yes. Which, as I said, it's not explicitly stated with the glass columns that is true. And it doesn't seem like it's testing you in the same way in terms of you actually have to actively bring yourself back from the test. But at the same time, I mean, like, again, it is very much like very possibly could be and probably is that you're just gone the whole time that you're seeing these visions. And if you come back or not is the question.
Right. No, it's and that's the thing, is it's strongly suggested, just as you said, but it's a really fun thought, man. It's really cool to think about, just talking about the sheer power these objects have.
Oh yeah, dude.
So
fucking crazy.
Andrew, you want to jump into the vision number 6?
Sure. So vision number 6, wandering through the breaking. In this vision, Rand is Jonai, son of Cumin. Not spelt like the spice. Coumin. Cumin. So, through Jonai's memories, Rand learns about the rapid change of the surface of the earth during the breaking. How lost people have felt. Where there was low land a year before, there's now a mountain towering into the sky. There's endless water covering areas where cities once were. Jonai, of course, misses his wife, Alnora, who died because there was no Aes Sedai around to heal her. Alnora's...
fucking Aes Sedai.
And Alnora's death took the last bit of life out of Jonai. Without her dreams, he feels lost and old. He leads a handful of thousands of Daishain IL, where there had been tens of thousands. They have too many people for the number of wagons they have. Only children too small to walk are allowed to ride on them. His son, Adon, is a tall young man with blue eyes. He still waits for his older son, Willem, to appear. However, he was sent away years ago when he began to channel and could not stop doing it. Once again, still continuing the hereditary traits that lead to Rand being able to channel.
Right.
A soul died in a quick sickness at a very young age, and just as with Alnor, there were no Aes Sedai around to heal her. There's a lot of emphasis in these last two visions.
You know what? This vision,
the feeling that the Aes Sedai have failed to Daishain IL.
Right? Because I love how, forever the Aiel, who are honor-bound and ridiculously honor-bound, are like standing around being like, oh yeah, no, we failed the Aiel at some point, and now we gotta not do that again. And like in these two visions specifically, but like all through the story and whatnot, you really get a sense that the Aiel fucking failed that the Aes Sedai failed the Aiel as well. Like, they left them to just figure shit out that they were not prepared or equipped.
But it's not the way.
So.
It's not the way to hold a grudge and anger.
Yes,
which we see because Ogier come to their wagons, around 50 of them, men and women. They're hollow-cheeked, sad-eyed. Their tufted ears are drooping. As we know from Loyal's talks in The Eye of the World, and all this is during the longing, where the Ogier have lost the steading. My dog is scratching the absolute shit out of her ass right now. All I could hear was like some scrubbing behind me, and my dog is wiggling her ass, like her haunches, I guess, the top part of her ass, like the fur part, on the carpet, and she's doing it again. She's actually really cute. Anyway.
Hello, dog.
But
we cannot find the steading.
Because the world has changed so much. The Ogier, obviously, they're slowly dying. And Jonai is shocked by his own quick anger at seeing the Ogier eating their food. And all he can think about is how many of his people could eat on what 50 Ogier consume. Because the IL are short on food themselves.
Yeah.
But he reminds themselves to share is the way to give freely. The last Aes Sedai he has seen just after Alnora died took some of the objects from the wagons and told them that one of the Forsaken was only partially trapped, or maybe not at all. Ishamael still touched the world, which is a confirmation of it's not really a theory, but of Ishamael being released every so often to touch the world. Jonai thought that she might be mad too, as have gone insane as well, like the remaining male Aes Sedai. And she laughed at them bitterly when he asked her where there was a place of safety. The Ogier asks about the Chora cuttings, and he says that they die, but the old folk keep new cuttings before the old ones die. So they're dying, but the elders of the Daishan Aiel are taking new cuttings from them before the old ones die. Jonai learns from the Ogier that they cannot travel north, that the blighted lands are growing southward, and there are Murdral and Trollocs abound. They can't go south either. The Sea of Jaren lays 10 days south, or it did. Jonai feels very tired. The Ogier asks about going east, where the Daishan Aiel are coming from, and Jonai tells about people who took a third of their horses. He thinks of the abandoned wagons and pain. Interesting to note the specificness of a third of their horses rather than all of them. It could be the beginnings of the idea of taking the fifth.
Right.
The things, we have a quote here, the things the Aes Sedai had placed in Aiel charge, abandoned. Almost everyone they meet takes things from them, whatever they want. People steal, people with faces like animals, people who do not recognize the Daishan or even know of them. Jonai thinks of the Ogier lost, the Aiel lost, everything lost, and he winds up dying of a broken heart. With his last words, he tells his son Adon, hey Josh, you want to put your flair on this one? I know you can do it well.
Take the people south. Take them south. Take the Aiel to safety. Keep the covenant. Guard what the Aes Sedai gave us until they come for it. The way of the leaf. You must.
So his final thoughts, his final thoughts are that he tried, and Solinda Sedai must understand that he tried, and the vision ends with him calling for his dear departed wife, Alnora.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that we just found the new Sean Bean.
It would be pretty cool.
Hey, Josh, you want to just die in everything that you ever
I'm okay with that.
are in?
I mean, with makeup, you could be every one of these Every one of these ancestors.
every single person that dies in the series, that would be awesome.
That's a lot of roles to play. Game of Thrones ain't got nothing on the number of people that die.
Oh, dude, I can't wait.
But
I can't wait. So
there's a lot of interesting stuff here.
Yeah, so this is another big one. Yeah.
This is another
keeping
big
in
one.
mind too, this is what 5, 6, 7 generations back so far.
It's the 6th generation back, I believe.
And they're still traveling. They've still got wagons. They're still wandering aimlessly, and they're still carrying Angreal and Tirangreal for the Aes Sedai.
It's about 13. Now, there's an unknown number.
Yeah,
there's an unknown number of descendants between Mandaean and Janduin, but assuming there's only one, you're looking at about 13.
Yeah. So the idea here is that, I mean, it's very, 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 very like crazy right now for them, right? And this starts to hint at the promise that they made to the Aes Sedai, because the last Aes Sedai he had seen gave them objects and said that the Forsaken were only partly trapped, or maybe not at all. We got to get these things to safety. We got to get this out of here. And so we start to see some of that promise that they're hinting at is illustrated here in this exchange.
I mean, so this is the first in-text confirmation on the, as of up to this point, theory about Ishmael being only partially sealed. So the text confirms that he is partially sealed, and the Aes Sedai know of this, but he's the only one they know of. Yeah.
At this time,
that at this point, the breaking of the world has essentially all the physical aspects of the world changing, the male channelers going insane, has already happened. But this is still during the time of the breaking. Male Aes Sedai are still running rampant. Even the Daishain Aiel, who have been charged by Aes Sedai, don't fully trust the Aes Sedai. They think that even the women may have gone insane. We see a repeat of what we see in the beginnings of the Eye of the World, where the Blighted Lands have been advancing into the advancing south over time. We can assume here that
there's
it's
just
a lot
so
worse
much uncertainty
than it was as we see in the Eye of the World.
Yep.
We get to see a first-hand account of the Ogier during the Longing, as the Ogier call it,
Which is so sad.
But we get the first name of an Aes Sedai that would know about the charge given to the Daishain Aiel and why. And it's important enough to name the Aes Sedai. So there's so many names in the Wheel of Time series, but anytime anybody gets a name, it is actually important. And so
yes.
Dude, I looked up recently how many characters there were in the Wheel of Time, and Google told me
there's
5.
over 2,600 name characters. So for anybody that says they can't find a character to play on Twitter as a Wheel of Time character, there's literally over 2,600 choices. Well, you might only see for like 2 sentences, but yeah.
But still,
so we get to see the world in an absolutely desolate place, and it's echoed. So we get to see the personal count of the Daishain Aiel and a bit of the Ogier, and we can tell that the same sentiment that they're feeling, the sense of loss, the sense of there being nowhere to go, nowhere safe, only to keep moving forward, is shared the world over. And it helps drive home just how hopeless the situation is now. And it's even driven home even more by the fact that we know what happens after Jonai with his son, and it's really not any better. And then after him, it's really still not any better. And you're like, fuck, this is going to take
Yep.
a long time. Like, when they say shit's got to get worse before it gets better, like, this is redonkulous.
Well, and you know, you think again, it's 13 generations until, I mean, the first vision is still several hundred years prior to,
Mm-hmm.
let's see, still several hundred years prior to Rand,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I believe so. It's still well before
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, very hundreds of years, because that's the first vision is when Rhuidean is being built. So I mean, you got to think. I mean, the time frame. This is a significant amount of time being covered in these visions.
Are we ready for the seventh?
So, well, we step out of the sixth vision, you know, with Jonai whispering Alnora and dying, and Rand's taken another step, and Muradin is
Gone.
He's
gone. By this point, he actually has disappeared.
He's
And
clawed
Rand
his.
thinks that it's interesting, but he's like, I don't even really know what's going on with me, so like I don't really have any time to go ahead and like think about the fact that Muradin's gone, but like also Muradin's gone.
Exactly. It's something else, man. These guys are just. Whew, it's a lot to take in, that's for sure.
On to the
Yes,
seventh
it
vision,
is.
right?
So yep. So
Indeed.
seventh vision. So
A needle pulling thread.
You want me to do this one?
wait. Yeah. So seventh vision.
We're
so
still
now
Jonai.
we're Jonai,
We're a younger Jonai.
or we're still Jonai, but we're Jonai.
I'd say kind of
We're-
younger. Jonai
we're
is 63
younger.
in this vision, and what is considered the prime of life.
Wait.
Not yet old enough for gray hairs.
Right. Which again is also kind of weird, but again, you know, I mean, this a lot's changed in a couple thousand years.
I mean, the
People's
thing
life
that-
cycles are different. You know, I think that's another. I was just going to say, I think that's something that kind of goes along with, you know, just giving you the sheer scale.
So the
of
thing
what's
that I
being
find
uncovered
right
now.
off the bat, looking at what this vision is titled, "Departure from Paradisen and Promises to the Aes Sedai." This is an exciting time because we get a first-hand sight account of the ancient, what in the modern age, ancient city of Paradisen would look like. And Paradisen was the crown jewel, the pinnacle city during the Age of Legends. It's where,
Yes.
I believe it's where Luz Theron ruled from, where the Aes Sedai, for the most part, called home. It's where the Hall of Servants rested. It was the absolute seat and pinnacle of power during the Age of Legends. It was the grandest city on Earth. There was no place better than this.
Yes. It's absolutely amazing. And you know, imagine sort of like Atlantis kind of a thing, you know, when people talk about Atlantis and you know, lasers and, you know,
Flying fish.
Wi-Fi, basically. I mean, you've got you've got Randall Thor, country bumpkin from the Two Rivers, who knows next to nothing. I mean, who still only a couple weeks prior was staring slack-jawed at the city of Barlon. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of experience with these things, and then all of a sudden he's going through this whole history, and he steps into Paradisen, which is the pinnacle of society at the pinnacle of society. It is the best of the best that the Age of Legends had to offer, and oh my God, he was kind of blown away. But again, he wasn't Rand. He was Jonai. He was Rand observing from the point of view of Jonai. So now Jonai is in Paradisen. He is in the prime of his life. He's running down the streets of Paradisen past dead chora trees. Now, as we know, from the previous vision, they do take cuttings from the Chora tree, which is the Avendosora
it's
or
that
Avendosora
tree.
Vita or whatever they call it. All those are Chora trees, which were created.
Oh, and it's
using
important
one
to note
powder,
too that this Pinnacle City streets are empty, and the buildings are shattered.
Yes. The ground is rumbling. Things are not at all good. He is wearing the Cadensor. Where have we heard that before? But I don't think it's the same Cadensor that the modern day Aiel wear. I think it is a word that they have carried with them. He enters the Hall of Servants. The entrance is not guarded. People are running around. Everybody's in a panic. Everything's crazy. Nothing's been cleaned. He steps into a room where there is half a dozen Aes Sedai. All of them are women. They're standing around a long table covered with the dragon banner of Luz Theron Kinslayer. Now, up to this point, you know what the dragon banner is. And this Jonai sees the dragon banner laid out on this table. Also on the table, a crystal sword. Now, Jonai's heart clenches, thinking, why?
Guys, it's calendar.
What?
Yeah,
now, Jonai is actually...
They should put some dates on that calendar.
Now, Jonai actually gets a little miffed. He gets a little irritated right now. He's like, why haven't they destroyed those things? That dude was a piece of shit, and they should destroy this shit. That man was cursed. And he hears one of the Aes Sedai, Osel, almost shouting with another Aes Sedai, Deandra Sedai. And then why she cannot tell the exact time of her foretelling as the world rests on it. So Deandra had a foretelling, and Osel is pissed off that Deandra won't say exactly what's in the foretelling. And another Aes Sedai, so basically there's a bunch of Aes Sedai that are squabbling, right, back and forth, as they're wont to do, as they do commonly. Let's see. Jonai comes in on this. He's like, oh, you guys are crazy. Everybody's arguing. Everybody's squabbling. He leaves the room, and he goes out to talk to Someshta, the Nim. Who's the Nim, guys? We know who the Nim are. They're the green man, and they're the nature tree kind of guys.
They're the ends.
And he had a wound. He's having some memory issues because he was wounded. And Jonai says, hey, it's me. You and me are friends. I rode on your shoulders when I was a child. And Someshta asks about the singing and identifies Jonai as one of the children of the dragon. What? Jonai winces because he hates that name, and he knows that name is going to cause them troubles. Why? Because the dragon went nuts and started causing all of these problems. So Linda calls for Jonai saying, hey, are you guys ready to leave? And Jonai says, can we please have some stay here to serve you? And Celinda says, remember what happened to Sora, which I don't know who Sora is. I'm assuming one of the other Aes Sedai, or one of the other Aiel at this point in time. And says, a male Aes Sedai mad with the taint killed 10,000 Daishan Aiel who tried to make them remember. All of them died. And then destroyed the entire city with balefire. And then Jonai says that the Daishane's sacrifice earned time the citizens of Sorai to flee. Oh, Sora is...
it was the second largest city.
So they're saying, get out of the city. You have to get out of the city.
During the Age of Legends, known for its huge multicolored glass towers varying in shape but glittering in the sunlight. It was destroyed again, like you said, by Jarek Mondoran when he went insane.
So the Aiel are being told to leave
He literally
the
turned
city,
the city into glass
to protect them. To
Sorry.
say,
It says that he unleashed an immense wave of heat which fused stone,
awesome.
metal, and flesh of the city together, leaving behind only a sheet of glass. Yep.
Ooh,
And you mentioned, did you
A
mention
sheet
what?
of glass.
Sorry to
That's
backtrack,
pretty
but
intense.
Celinda's Streeth was Streeth, the clothing she was wearing.
what her
I just think
strength
it's
was?
so it's a material that
Oh,
was
no, I did
popular
not.
during the
I
Age of
apologize,
Legends,
no.
but it was lost on how to make it during Breaking of the World. But it's normally white, but changes color to match the mood of its wearer, which would explain why Jonai could tell that she was calm and composed. So it's like a full body mood ring.
There you go. And so Jonai actually is a little miffed himself that they're being asked to leave the city, because he says that, you know, they are willing to make the sacrifice. They're like, no, we are not afraid. This is our job. This is where we need to be to serve the Aes Sedai. Well, she says she wants the Aiel to be safe, and Jonai says that they will care for what they were given into their charge until the Aes Sedai want them again. What does that sound like? That sounds like the previous vision, right? And they will not only will they assume charge of these things, but they will also carry them and keep moving until they find a place of safety where no one can harm them, and also carry the things to safety with them, and to keep the covenant as being the most important thing that they could ever possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's fun too, because once again, we're kind of going, okay, there's the covenant. That's it. Straight up, that's the covenant. Take these items into your charge. Keep moving until you find a place of safety to store them where nobody can harm them and where nobody can harm you. So the covenant was also to find themselves a place of safety, really, when you think about it.
Correct.
So this is a big one. There's a lot of information here. So Jonai asks about Kumin, his father, and Jonai mentions that Kumin found a shock lance, and Celinda starts to cry. And she says, if the Daishain lose everything else, see that they keep the way of the leaf. Promise me this. And Jonai is like, dude, why would we ever lose the way of the leaf? Like, Jonai's a little shocked that such a thing would even be suggested. And the covenant, and then Jonai's wait. Who says this? I think it's Jonai that says this. The covenant was the Aiel, and the Aiel were the covenant. To abandon the way would be to abandon what they were. And you start to get a sense of how deeply they held these things to be truths of who they were, the very fabric of who they were and who they are as people. And, you know, Kumin, and then it goes on to say that Kumin was an odd person. On the wiki page, they actually use the word aberration. And you know, didn't really live like an Aiel would. He's a little weird, which to me kind of is reminiscent of Aram. I feel like that's a little similar to that.
Agreed.
And I feel like that's not an uncommon story in the Aiel history.
Yeah.
Jonai
It's
leaves.
a hard way to live.
It is. It very much is.
Now, granted, in the Age of Legends, it was easier to live that way because there was less violence, there was less uncertainty, there was less problematic situations that you could get into, but it is still a hard way to live, even in our society now, which is, I would say, somewhat akin to the Age of Legends in terms of, high society, civilization, things like that. It's still a relatively hard way to live, to just never do any harm, never threaten any harm, live to serve a particular entity and whatnot. So it's interesting.
So here's where it gets fun. So as Jonai's leaving, he hears a couple of things happen, and these are really interesting things. One is Osel asking Solinda whether they can trust Kodam and his fellows. Now, Kodam is a male Aes Sedai at this point in time. And they say, yes, we have to. We don't really have a choice. They are male channelers, but they're young and inexperienced, and they haven't been touched by the taint as much. And he overhears how they decide that the sword can wait and call Someshta, saying that they have a task for the last of the Nim. So I almost feel like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know that the sword is Kalendor. And I almost feel like this is why Rand is the only one who's able to take it. Because he actually hears them discussing male and female will work together to secure the sword.
Well,
and I want to say I'd be willing to bet that he learned something there that he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
No, because he's already taken the sword. This is post him taking Kalendor.
Oh shit, you're right.
Yeah, that was Dragon Reborn.
You're right.
This is
so what I'm
talking
about.
So now he's going,
oh, okay. For the last of the
I did that
Nim,
right. Cool.
If you agree.
Kinda.
You have two Aes Sedai asking if they can trust Kodam, who was a young male Aes Sedai. And you had this meeting of half a dozen. Was it a dozen or half a dozen? A dozen Aes Sedai. Half a dozen, sorry. And we know... Correct.
Yes,
because we
and
know
so they are about to
DeAndre's
go
foretelling
make
talent
the Eye of the World.
has contributed to part of the Corinthian cycle. And it's never 100% verified where they all died, but the prevailing theory and thought, and I would say it should be unanimously confirmed, is that they all died making the Eye of the World. It would make sense. So say we all. It would make sense with DeAndre having foretelling.
So say we all.
DeAndre's vision is one of several that formed the prophecies of the Corinthian cycle. Then they're planning over Kalendor and the Dragon Banner. And them saying that Kalendor can be taken care of later would lead more of an explanation as to why Kalendor is found in the Stone of Tyr, rather than along with the Dragon Banner and the Horn of Valir at the bottom of the pool, at the bottom of the Eye of the World.
Right.
It explains pretty much the entire creation of that event. Right. It explains why there's a green man that's in charge of where it rests and everything.
Right. So then the end of the seventh vision, Jonai is leaving the building. He runs out to where thousands of wagons of the Aiel standing in 10 lines stretching nearly 2 leagues. Wagons loaded with crated things of the Aes Sedai, Angreal, Sangreal, and Terangreal. All of the things that had to be kept safe from the men who are going mad. And it even mentions the reason they're using wagons is because all of the really cool things, the Joe cars, hoverflies, show wings,
jumpers,
are destroyed. They're gone. They're lost. We can't do anything with them. So guess what, Aiel? You just went from Atlantis to freaking Mesopotamia. Now you have to do horse.
You went from Atlantis to Atlanta, circa
we can't ignore the comparison between the city names
it's true.
and Paradise. So at the very end, where they
It's
leave
true.
Paradisen, it's literally like humanity, the last of humanity leaving paradise. A time where things were fantastic. Maybe not at this, definitely not at this exact point.
Yeah.
But prior to the sealing of the bore and everything. But
Sure.
the thing I love the most about these visions is beyond the eye of the world, building the world of the Wheel of Time. To me, these visions that Rand has does more historical world building for us than anything else in the series. Now, there are hints to different things, like with the shock lance. We know
Agreed.
that Moradin has one. We never see it. He never uses it. We don't know if it's some kind of lance that's like an electric lance, or it's a lance.
Technically, we don't even actually know that he has one. He says that he has one.
Right.
But technically, I mean, Moradin is not known for being the most truthful. So...
Yeah. Well, the sighting I see, it claims that has been shown to have one in his possession. He might have one that doesn't work. I'm not sure, but that's from Towers of Midnight, Chapter 5. And we can gather from what happens after Jonai mentions that Kuman found a shock lance, and then so Linda starts to cry. We can surmise what probably happened. And of course, it's confirmed in the next vision. But we learn so much about the historical world. We get a glimpse into Paradisen, and what it was like. We get a sense of the Hall of Servants. We know that it was always guarded. You couldn't just walk in there. We get the sense of panic that the citizens of Paradisen are, and even with the streets being empty, that the majority, if not all, citizens have abandoned the city by now. That already at this point, male Aes Sedai have gone and mad enough by the taint. Jarek Mondoryn was probably a part of the 100 companions that went mad at the stroke of the Dark One and his retaliation. And destroys an entire city with balefire, and the heat from the balefire literally turns the ground into glass. Which, think of how powerful he must have been in the power to do that. That's a testament to power. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and or how many Angreals and or Sangreals he had access to.
So that's
because
another.
This is the fucking age of legends. That's another testament to the strength.
Like we've seen Aes Sedai mention
or
that
40.
You know, the strength of Chandlers has greatly diminished since the Age of Legends, and now we get to see exactly what they mean. Because could Rand do it? For sure. Could Nynaeve do it? Probably. Could Egwene and Elaine do it? There's a good chance they could, but maybe not. I don't think Elaine could, and I don't think Egwene reasonably could.
But there is that one, the
Alviren?
I forget her name. Elvira? No, that's not it. But the Shan Chan Damani. Who definitely could, because holy shit, she comes out as just being like fucking strong.
Right.
Oh, and the old lady from that Egwene picks up on her way to. Never mind, that's later in the story. All of this is yeah.
So spoiler warning: Egwene picks up an old lady, but so we get.
So the big crowning. Well, I was just going to say the big crowning moment in this vision, as we've discussed, there's a big theme or a big crowning sort of, moment in this vision. Jonai has run out of the building. He has come out to all these wagons, and a group has come up and said, "Did we get permission to stay?" was their question. Knowing what happened, they say, "Did we get permission to stay?"
No.
And Jonai looking very stoically. No, we must obey. We are Daishain Aiel, and we will obey the Aes Sedai. He runs to his own wagon.
Aes Sedai.
He's got his kids there, which, remember, this is the previous vision. In the next vision, most of these guys are not alive again, and he's just
10-year-old
tired and sad and depressed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He's got all his chora cuttings, and he says, okay, this is it. We got to go. This is it. We've got to obey the Aes Sedai. And he gives the signal, and the wagons slowly begin to move, and thus begins the exodus of the Aiel leaving Paradisen.
And you get some stuff from Alnora that makes the previous viewing all the more harder.
Ugh.
Yes.
Because she repeats his words that all will be well and tells him, with you, I know it will be so, husband of my heart.
Ugh.
Yes.
And you already know that all is not well. And will not be well
exactly.
For quite a fucking while.
Narrator.
Fuck
It's
you,
true.
books, for making me
Husband of my heart, all will be well. All was not well.
But all was not well.
I also think that it's interesting, just throwing this out there, that I don't think I realized it until I thought about it now. The Aiel did actually effectively keep their promise to the Aes Sedai inadvertently, because they leave with a bunch of Angreal, Sangreal, and Terangreal. And while the Aes Sedai think that they're going to go back for them, they never do. And so they don't keep up their sort of end of the bargain. And even though the Aiel lose a bunch of these Angreal, Sangreal, and Terangreal on the way to the Threefold Land, it is interesting to note that one of the biggest reasons that they take them is so that they don't fall into the hands of men who are going mad. And I feel like they actually do that part pretty goddamn well. In fact, hundreds of years from now, the Aes Sedai don't even know where all of these Angreal, Sangreal, and Terangreal are, because they've just been completely lost into the ether. So, good job on you, Aiel, for figuring out a way to keep these male Aes Sedai these male channelers from getting their hands on the Angreal, Sangreal, and Terangreal, because that was your biggest mission.
Just think about it. At the current time, even the Aes Sedai, even the Aiel don't remember where these things are from.
Oh, exactly.
All they know, the ones that have been into Rhuidean, they've just been there. There are things that are there. You go in, you do your business, you leave. You don't fuck with shit because you're just happy to make it out alive by the end.
How many do you think walked through that archway, though?
Oh, that must be the next one I got to walk through, and you're never seen her.
Exactly.
And
especially if you're one of the wise ones that can channel.
Yeah.
But, and this is something I meant to mention at the previous viewing with Willem being sent away, being able to channel. Just look at how old that tradition is. And you can see why it's tradition with Jonai living through the male Aes Sedai going insane suddenly.
Yes.
And seeing what happens.
Literally in his lifetime, Willem starts to be able to channel, and he goes, nope, this is definitely not happening. You are going away because we cannot trust you.
Yeah, and you can tell he still loves his oldest son.
Oh, absolutely.
The next viewing, he's waiting for him to show back up. At this point, I don't care if he's going to go mad. I just want some semblance of my family to come back.
Right.
And they never do. And it's after seeing all of this, the views are nothing short of heart-wrenching the further you go on, because it starts off and you're like, okay, shit's bad. And when you go back, and it's just like anything, you get the backstory for it. It makes the tragedy so much worse.
It does. It absolutely does. And it makes you it just rips your heart out. It's just and you know, it gives you once again, it gives you a sense of how deeply steeped this culture is
Mm-hmm.
in honor and duty and making sure that they keep that promise.
And since we're in this vision where they're mentioned, I'd like to briefly go over what we know of the technology that's mentioned. We don't really know too much of the jumpers. It sounds like it's some kind of like technology-based gateway kind of thing.
Right.
But the Jokars, we know they're ground transport used in the Age of Legends, small capacity. And there's two versions. There's one that has four wheels that runs on the ground, and there's another that uses anti-gravity technology, which is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Right.
Then there's the hoverflies, which we don't see described yet, but we do in the next vision. But Kuman describes them as a deadly black metal wasp containing two men. It's also said to have buzzed, make a buzzing sound. Little is known about hoverflies simply because they exist only in the Age of Legends. Sounds very similar to a helicopter to me.
Yes.
A little bit.
Especially if it's saying deadly black metal wasp. I'm like, probably was easily
Black
weaponized.
Hawk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Nope.
Then there's
I agree.
Yeah. Then there's the show wings, which they range in shape and size, but commonly were a delta shape. They could carry passengers numbering from a few to hundreds over large distances, similar to other vehicles such as the Jokars, the Jumpers, and the Hoverflies, which makes me think of more like
Airplane.
passenger airlines. Yeah, those
Right.
sort of things.
Cargo liners. Yeah.
Morden has a bunch of parts to a show wing that he keeps in a secret facility along with other salvage technology from the Age of Legends.
Including the shock lance that is questionable.
I don't think it works.
Right.
Yeah,
I believe
exactly.
he has one, but I don't think it works.
No, exactly. So
He's got a shock lance. Oh, really? Let me see it. Well, it goes to another school.
I mean, to me, it's incredibly interesting because you have a city that is essentially named Paradise.
Canada. It's in Canada.
That's right.
My shock lance. It's just,
Biological reserve.
you're not going to see it
My
because
shock-
it's in Canada.
Yeah,
It's in Canada.
but I mean,
Keep it there.
to me, look at
Doesn't go to
how
this school.
amazing. Look at how amazing this world is. You have a city that's so grand; it's essentially named Paradise. You have technology that allows people that can't channel to travel large distances relatively easily. So you have a world that is not core dependent on the one power.
Well,
that
yes and no, because again, one of the reasons that I think all of this stuff went haywire and was destroyed and all of this is because it was actually created using the one power. And so whether it's that the one power then destroyed it or whether it actually relied on the one power so that when that failed, they failed is a little unclear, but it does seem to be that the Jokars, Jumpers, Hoverflies, and Show Wings were all eliminated at about the same time that the one power went bad. So whether
The question is
that they
were they
actually
scuttled
needed the
or-
one power to work, or whether or some other kind of thing is very unclear.
I guess it sounds like they were powered by like Terran. Like they were modes of transportation that were essentially shaped
Sure.
around Terran.
Very possibly.
They could provide them power. I guess what
and that's the thing is we just don't know.
Um,
So a lot of things with the Age of Legends is just pure
well, yes.
speculation.
Well, we know the entire reason that the Aes Sedai at the time do breach the Bore into the Dark One's prison is because they were looking into an alternative energy source that they had discovered. Little do they know they was about to make the biggest fuck up in any age ever to have come or to come. That's the whole reason that they
Yep.
were doing this. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is.
But it's interesting to get to this point where we can see the council of the
Yeah.
eye of the world come together and go like, hey, we've got shit we need to do, got to abandon the city, all this fucked, and this is the last thing we can do to try to fix what we fucked up.
It is reminiscent
Blah, blah,
to
blah.
me of in Star Wars when Master Yoda looks at Obi-Wan and says, I have training for you. And, basically it's Qui-Gon's lessons of how to become one with the Force and become a Force ghost instead of just dying. And in Clone Wars, they actually talk about Yoda talking about, we can't win this war, but what we can do is we can set up a means of survival. We can give the future the tools it needs to pick this battle back up and hopefully win. But we can't win.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do right now to win. And I really love that concept because you have these Aes Sedai, these women, who is it? Ocel and these the names escape me, but these women Aes Sedai who are preparing these things. And they're very, very careful about it. They're very, very specific about this. And if you notice, they're not automatically gentling all the men who are in their, who are with them. They've actually got several that are like, okay, look, we need your help. You have to do this before the taint can turn you insane.
Yeah.
And they understood how to, they understood that they could not possibly win this conflict at this time. But what they could do was give people the tools they needed to take up the fight in the future. Now, I don't know that any of them knew it was 3,000 years away. The one that had the foretelling probably did. But, here they are building the Eye of the World.
Indeed.
And they're like, okay, we need a well of clean Sayadine. We need the Dragon Banner. We need the Quendular Seals. We need these things to be protected. We need it, And then they're like, Kalendor, we got Kalendor. What are we going to do with Kalendor? We need to put it in a place where it's safe, secure, something that can never be touched until Louis Theron is reborn.
And preferably not even with the Eye of the World, because those two things being together is a terrible idea.
Right? Exactly. I mean, exactly. They had the foresight to say, we can't win this battle, but we just might be able to give the future the ability to win the battle. To win the war.
Indeed. All right. So now we move on to the 8th vision, which this is interesting. It is actually another person that we've seen before. This one is called Seed Singing and the Sealing of the Boar. And Rand is now...
The boar?
Indeed.
That sounds ominous.
It is. And Rand is now...
You're so funny. You got jokes.
And Rand is now Cumin, who we have heard of, who is the great-grandson of Charn. And this is when Cumin actually thinks that everything is great, and he's so happy to be an Aiel, because Cumin is 16 years old, and he has just been chosen by the women for the singing, as his voice has finally become deep enough.
His nuts done dropped. He went from this and he started doing that. And now he sings like a bass angelic man.
Wash the spears when the... Oh, wait, that's not the song that they sing yet. That's way later.
Leaves when the sun goes high.
Yes, so he is on his knees around a field with the other Daishain that have been chosen to participate in the singing, as well as the Ogiers who have been chosen to participate in the singing. And he's wearing his work clothes, which are totally Cadansor, because that's what they used to wear. I mean, it's slightly different because they don't seem to be made out of animal hides, which the Cadansor of the present day Aiel do seem to be made mostly of like animal skins and whatnot, but they are the early versions of the Cadansor, and
which are totally vegan,
right? And soldiers guard them atop armored Joe cars. There is a hoverfly buzzing over their head. It is patrolling. So again, now we actually see these things not just being spoken of, but we literally see what they look like. He is fascinated by soldiers who have killed, because he does not. He is very much Daishin Aiel, and he seems to be buying fully into it because the world is good and other people do the killing, not Aiel. He does know that there is a world where people, or he is living in a world where people live under constant protection of the soldiers, so he never has to worry about killing. He remembers a time where his father's great father Charn said that there were no soldiers, no Night Riders or Trollocs, Murdrolls or Forsaken, no Shadow Rot, or as we would know them, Shadow Spawn. And the Dark Lord of the Grave, the Dark One, has been bound away, and no one even knew his name or the word war. Now, he has been living in a society that is not like that, and it's a little unclear as to whether that is a society that actually even existed, or whether it was just Charn's great father spouting nonsense. But it does seem like
back in my day,
right? But at the same time, it does seem like something that could be possible on some level. But he can't even imagine it because war has been around since as long as he's been alive. And in fact, Charn says that he once served Lanfear. But he thinks that Charn makes up stories, which is probably why Charn's grandfather also makes up stories. Because people don't like when Charn says Lanfear was not always evil. But of course, we actually do know of a time, sort of in story and whatnot, where Lanfear was not evil. There was actually a time where all of the Forsaken were just people. They were very powerful channelers. Yes. I mean, as we are well aware, Asmodean turned to the Shadow because he wanted to be more, he wanted to see more music and art and things like that, which is a lame reason, but sure. Demandred turns to the Shadow because he's never quite as good as Luz Theron, and he's frustrated as fuck.
He's looking for an edge.
Ishamael turns to the Shadow because he's afraid of death, and then later he just wants it. Lanfear turns to the Shadow because she gets spurned by Luz Theron. So all of these people have their reasons for turning, but at one point they were just people.
I would like to specify, though, with Ishamael, yes, he does turn to the Shadow because he fears death, but his solution to the fear of death is that he only wants to experience it once, and he wants to make damn sure that it's permanent. So he says to the Dark Lord, look, I don't want any chance that the wheel is going to spin me out again. So if I follow you, will you guarantee that my soul will be completely and totally destroyed? And the Dark One says, well, I mean, if we completely and totally destroy the wheel, then there's nothing to weave you back in. And Ishamael's like, done. Let's do this.
Yep.
He's the ultimate nihilist. He believes in nothing, Lebowski. Yeah, nothing.
In fact. But yeah, so Semeshta and the Nim approach the Ogier and start the singing. Townspeople are there to witness it, and they are super excited.
To break in slightly, do we recognize the name Semeshta?
Yes, she is one of the Aes Sedai that is mentioned in the next video.
No, Semeshta is the Nim.
I thought Semeshta is the
Nim.
Oh,
yes, sorry.
The Nim is also the Nim that we know as the legendary Green Man that guards the Eye of the World.
Presumably.
Yes. No, he definitely is. It's confirmed.
No, he is.
Same name.
In the seventh vision, that's what they talked to Semeshta about. But the thing is that Semeshta has, in the seventh vision, Semeshta has a head wound and has memory issues.
Correct.
Whereas in the eighth vision, Semeshta does not have that wound yet.
Yes. So,
anyway, continue.
Indeed. They Kuman thinks about going ahead and asking Semeshta whether Charn's stories are true, because the Nim is actually old enough to know. But he decides not to go ahead and do that. They sing, the Nim dances, they end up making this beautiful field. I mean, it doesn't really like bloom on sight, but like you can feel it. Like the earth loves this shit, and it's gonna make some great fucking crops.
Are you feeling it yet,
The
Mr.
earth is
Krabs?
digging. It's gonna make some great fucking crops, man.
Dude, the earth, it's like that one white girl in high school who's at the party who actually wants the guy to play Wonderwall. The ground is that. And so
anyway, here's Wonderwall.
So they go ahead and sing, and they finish, and he does at the very beginning of the singing think about how he was passed over when he was younger, and he's like, man, fuck that. And then he starts singing and he's like, nah, never mind, this is amazing, I don't even care. And everything is fantastic. They finish the singing. Everyone who was not part of it, all of the women as well as, some of the younger men and whatnot, come up and congratulate them all. He gets lots and lots of praise from these women who alternate between kissing him on the lips and ruffling his short hair, also known as the eligible women and the ones who are older.
Wait a minute. Who else has people singing and dancing around, the eligible folk singing to each other? It's probably not connected, but I was referring
to
the Two Rivers. Yes,
oh, wait, sorry.
All the eligible Murdral. No, I was referring
the
to
two
the
I
Beltane.
I want to do
Festival.
a quick.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't think that's actually specifically related, but I like the parallel.
Because I feel it would be amiss
You're
to
welcome.
not mention this. This is another spoiler warning all the way through A Memory of Light. So if you have not read through A Memory of Light, fast forward, let's say 45 seconds to a minute. But seed singing. This vision becomes incredibly crucial for Rand. Because when he is shielded by a domain in Tuon's presence, he sings the song of growing to make them believe he's still using the one power to make the grass green and the trees blossom despite the shield.
Yeah, and this may or may not actually be where he
Yes.
learned
It
it.
is, but Matt hears him singing, and the tune reminds him of a song called Two Maids at the Water's Edge. Because there's a prophecy in the Cycle of the Dragon that says, let the Prince of the Morning sing to the land that green things will grow.
And
There's also
and-
the land is one with the
again,
dragon
just-
reborn, and he is one with the land.
I am one with the
Yes.
Force, and the Force is with me. I am one with the Force, and the
And
Force is
I'm
with
going to
me,
leave
and
that there,
I'm-
but there is a whole lot more to that
But
where you
in-
just went with
Oh,
that.
it's true.
There's
but
a
in
whole lot
spoiler-
more to that.
And back to the relatively
But yes.
spoiler safe up the prologue requires that.
Except that it's not. I mean, like, it's spoiler free technically. But this is the moment where we're about to get into something that's very, very interesting, because Tomata the Ogier asks one of the soldiers with a helmet like an insect's
I
head,
wonder who wears it.
and that actually
Huh.
strongly suggests at this point that these are maybe Arthur Hawkwing's soldiers or remnants of Arthur Hawkwing's armies, and they're
Well, these
still
would predate
going ahead
Arthur
and-
Hawkwing, wouldn't it?
What?
This would predate Arthur Hawkwing, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? No, Arthur Hawkwing and Luce Theron fought, didn't
I
they?
believe they have. I'm looking.
I don't
Hold
think
on.
so.
He lived.
And so, if Luce Theron is
994.
alive,
So he actually he
He
lived.
what?
Arthur Hawkwing or Arthur Pendrag Tonreal lived from 912 to 994. So he actually only died 6 years prior to the start of the series.
what? No, that must
Yeah,
be a
no.
previous age. Because there's no way that Arthur Hawkwing was alive 6 years before Rand is running around
According
doing
to
stuff.
the wiki.
That's bullshit. Arthur Hawkwing's been dead for so many years by the time that the series starts.
It sounds wrong.
I am looking
His-
right now.
It's super wrong. His family, I mean, he died and his children left the continent, started an entire new civilization that comes back during the events. There's no way that that happened in 6 years.
This claims that it was 992 when he sent his son Luther with 300,000 soldiers across the Aranth Ocean, and in 993 he sent another fleet the same size under one of his daughters to Sara.
Again, this has to be a previous age because there is no way.
He died in 82.
It is FY. Hold on.
Either the wiki is
Sorry.
just off by an age.
That might be the difference.
No, it's in
yeah,
the age.
sorry,
It's in the age of.
FY.
Okay, so
it's my
it's in the age of FY, which is the previous age
Yes.
That's right.
to where
That's-
we are.
Yes. There we go.
So
Yeah.
we are currently in the NE age.
I forgot about the FY and any
Yes.
difference.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. But anyway, so I think that this is not again. Either this
So
is
here's
very
to confirm though, Arthur Hawkwing was approximately 1,000 years prior to the birth of the Dragon Reborn, and the breaking of the world and the boar and the men going mad was approximately 3,000 years prior to the birth of the Dragon Reborn.
so it definitely
Arthur
predates
Hawkwing-
him.
Yeah. So this is definitely predates Arthur Hawkwing.
Okay.
But that gives you an idea of how strong the tradition is of that military discipline and
Armor design and whatnot. Yes.
armor design. Yeah, those kinds of things. So Arthur Hawkwing, that might lend itself as to why Arthur Hawkwing is so successful. If he's utilizing tactics and technology from the Age of
Right.
Legends.
There's no reason to think that he doesn't keep the same armor scheme because even the Shanshan called him the ever victorious
Right.
army.
Exactly.
And Hawkwing's army was, with the exception of Tar Valon, was never defeated, and also with the exception of the fleet sent to Sara.
It also makes sense as to why they hate Aes Sedai,
Yep.
because
Well,
if the
hate
military
is actually a strong word. They don't actually seem to hate Aes Sedai. They just seem to think that they have a particular role in society, and when they don't do that
Arthur
role,
Hawkwing.
yes, Arthur Hawkwing hated
I'm
Aes
referring to
Sedai.
Arthur Hawkwing hating Aes Sedai.
Yes.
So anyway,
It seems that the Shanshan, more than hating Aes Sedai or anything like that, are incredibly distrustful, just like Arthur Hawkwing.
True,
is.
and of course they
Right.
think that their role in society is just to be on a leash and be used as a power source in some ways.
and
In a way they
if
can
we
be
start
controlled.
thinking about societies and their roles, I mean, we've got the Aiel, which is the history that we're following right now. If we've got the Aiel that managed to stay together as a society, it makes sense that this soldier in the helmet of an insect would also maintain a semblance of a type of society.
Mhm.
It's just a society we don't get a lot of writing about.
Correct.
And a young man named Arthur would, rise through the ranks, become a general or something along those lines, and can lead a thing. And if they've got the same armor scheme from 2,000 years ago, they would have the same ideas, the same prejudices, the same history, the same traditions, just
possibly.
like any other society
Yep.
would. Some of them forgotten, some of them magnified, some of them,
Mhm.
bent out of proportion. So it makes sense. And when you think about this too, at this moment, when we meet this person with the insect-like helmet, it's during the breaking of the world. Men are
No, it's
insane
not.
and killing everything. In the vision.
Oh yes, sorry.
When-
Yeah, correct.
When Kuman is talking to this person, this is the first, chronologically speaking, this is the first time we see the insect-like helmet.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
So it makes sense that they would hold those traditions, which is, I said I can't be trusted. And even in the sixth vision, they talk about, we're not even sure the women are trustworthy because are they mad too? We don't know. All we know is we're going to get this ter'angreal, angreal, and sangreal out of their
Though
hands.
at the same time, I think
can't
in
let
this
them have
particular vision, it actually looks like in the 8th vision, everything is still okay. I mean, bad stuff has happened because of what happens in the 9th vision, which we'll talk about in a moment. But it does actually look like everybody's still fine. Because it literally just talks about as soon as we see the soldier with the helmet-like head, or the insect-like helmet, he tells them about an unconfirmed, but we're pretty sure it's actually what's happening, a report of Luz Theron and the 100 companions that go and strike at Shale Goal, and they seal the bore. And so everything is still okay right now. Luz Theron has not gone insane. The men with him have not gone insane. But actually, this is the moment where it seems like they're going to go insane. And so this is not sort of during the big breaking. This is after the event that will cause the breaking.
Yeah, this is the event that causes the
But this is the backlash, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is at the moment he's sealed is whenever the Dark One does his counter stroke.
Because actually Luz Theron gets really, really... I mean, it's interesting because, as you said, they're looking for an alternate power source, and they figure out this thing that could be really awesome, and then they go through with trying to get a hold of it, and that's when they break into the Dark One's prison inadvertently. And then they go up to seal it, but instead of actually just sealing it, Luz Theron is a cocky, dumb, piece of shit motherfucker. And he goes, you know what would be even better than going ahead and sealing the Dark One away? Let's fucking kill him. And that's when the Dark One goes, you're adorable, Luz Theron, and just destroys Sidene.
Do you know, that kind of gives me the impression that Luz Theron never had the same type of confrontation that Rand did.
Oh, agreed.
Because Rand actually stepped through the bore
effectively
to say, what's up, let's do this. And Luz Theron attacked from a distance, essentially, with a circle of companions kind of a thing. So it actually, that's kind of an interesting point, is maybe, you know, this is a theme of the dragon himself was not anything special. He's just a really powerful guy. It was the dragon reborn to save everybody, and maybe that's what sets him apart from previous incarnations of the dragon.
Version 1 fucked up, so we're going to need a 2.0 patch.
Yeah, that kind of a thing, yeah.
Which is also funny because it does seem like in the story, as far as what we know and such, that Luz Theron goes up there to kill the Dark One, fails, and then sort of inadvertently, as a sort of backup plan, seals the bore up after he's already done fucked up. And so it is also interesting that, of course, Rand goes up there without really the idea of killing the Dark One. And he's just like, all right, cool, let's just shut him away again. And everybody's like, cool, worked last time for a certain amount of time. And Rand's like, yeah. So let me talk to him before I go ahead and close this up. And then he does, and he gets so much more information. And he's like, cool, so now you just taught me how to do this better. And now we're going to seal you up for good this time.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, back to the actual vision. Everybody's happy that all of this seed singing has been successful. They do find out about, Luz Theron and the companions doing what they are up to at Shale Goal and the Boar. And then when he goes back into town, Kuman goes to visit Charn. And on the way to the inn,
Grandpapa,
there's a dude in town called Toma who punches him in the face and then spits on him and is like, Lanfear will not protect you anymore. We will root out all of you who served the Forsaken while pretending to be on our side, and treat the lot of you as we treated that crazy old man.
What?
And Kuman, who is just devastated right now because he knows what happened. He doesn't see it until a moment later, but of course he's got a nice black eye or bloody nose or whatever it is that he actually got struck. And he runs. What?
He is bleeding.
Yeah, no, he's hurt and he's bleeding. And he's running to go see his grandfather, and he finds his grandfather has been lynched.
Yep. No!
And this is the moment where it sets up Kuman being very frustrated with what's going on in Vision 7. Because he has lived the way of the leaf his whole life, and now he's just gotten punched in the face, and his grandfather has been murdered. And that is not something that's okay.
Well, Kuman doesn't live past this vision.
Yeah,
you don't see it happen in this vision, but from the next. So the way I read it is the 8th vision that we're exposed to now is like a couple days to like maybe a couple weeks before the events of the 7th vision.
Sure, but it says she asks about Kuman, Jonai's father, who is hiding somewhere in the city. And he tried to talk Jonai and some others into resistance. And Jonai says that Kuman has found a shock lance. So,
yeah, and he kills himself with it.
Perhaps.
No, he definitely does.
Where do you get that?
He was hiding somewhere in the city, and he tried to talk Jonai and some others into resistance. They all, I would assume that most of them said, no, we serve the Aes Sedai. We're not going to resist any of this. And he says that Jonah mentions that Kuman has found a shock lance, and that's when Solinda starts crying.
Oh, I totally read that as Solinda is actually just worried about everybody else because Kuman has a shock lance.
I've read it, and the way I keep seeing it explained. Let me get back to what you call.
One thing's for certain,
but
Kuman is one of the first that we see to pick up weapons.
Correct. Yeah,
because
to forsake the way
he's one of the
suggest
first.
That others should do the same.
Mm.
Well, and honestly, who can blame him? They are in service to, Aes Sedai, and all of a sudden half of the Aes Sedai have gone insane. Several of the more famous Aes Sedai have turned to the shadow openly.
Yep.
And, I mean, the common folk are saying, okay, no, this is not okay. And you guys are servants of them? Okay, guess what? That means you're servants of the dark, and we're not.
Actually, when I said it might be only days or weeks, I'm definitely wrong. Because
it's a while.
Because in the 7th vision, Kuman is only 16, and the next vision, his son Jonai is 63.
Yeah, so it's a while.
There's quite a while between.
So Kuman has quite a bit of time to change from being the 16-year-old naive young man who's just learned how to seed sing to the jaded old. I have a 60-something-year-old son. We gotta fucking deal with this shit now that Aes Sedai are crazy. Right. I found a shock lance who's with me.
Yeah. Exactly. So there's quite a bit of time that goes between, because at this point, at the ceiling of the board, that the Dark One's counterstroke has already been set. And we also know that the counterstroke instantly drove the 100 Companions and Luce Theron insane.
Pretty much.
Right.
So we know that by the time we get to where Paradisen is crumbling, is no longer Pinnacle City, that the world has been under the ravages of an insane 101 male Chandlers and an ever-increasing number.
One of which being incredibly strong. I mean, the others also being ridiculously strong, as one of them bale-fired an entire city, but also, the dragon, who's ridiculous.
Yes.
So, so by the time we get to the events of the 7th vision, the world has been turmoiled by this for a long, long, long time. So that means that the plan that we see DeAndre and the other Aes Sedai cooking up with the Nem has been something they've been talking about for quite a while.
Probably.
The Paradisen at this point might actually have been one of the last legitimate strongholds of humanity at this point.
Yep.
That it's finally crumbling under the Mal Aes Sedai. But the way I read it, and I think the way it's often seen, is that as he gets older in his old age, Cumin, wanting to resist, finds a shock lance and uses it to commit suicide.
All right, I can see that. I definitely can see that read. I just had never before.
Because, I mean, the way I look at it is Jonai really trails off with that. He's like, Cumin found a shock lance, and then Solinda starts to cry.
Yeah. Anyway, obviously, again, Rand, it's very off-putting because I know that this has happened a couple of times, but this is the one that really gets me.
Oh, no.
We lost Daniel Althor. He's out.
Wait, but I'm...
Oh, no.
I lost Josh.
Well, in the eighth vision,
hold on, Josh. I can hear Josh, and I can hear Daniel.
Oh.
Daniel, can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
I can hear you, Andrew, but I can't hear Josh.
So Daniel can hear me, but he cannot hear Josh. Josh, you can't hear Daniel.
Oh, wait, Josh, can you hear me now?
Oh,
yay! As are you.
The technical difficulties never stop.
Whatever.
Love it.
All right, guys. So this is actually one of the ones where it really hits home because this has happened a couple of times, but this is like the weirdest one for me because at the end of the eighth vision, as Cumin, Rand sees Charn's body hanging limp from a rope. And then he pops back out of the glass columns and he's Rand again. And he's like, all right, cool. And then takes another step. And all of a sudden, he's the guy who was hanging from the rope.
Oh, yeah.
Can I read the hell? Go for it. I just wanted to say that about how fucking messed up that is.
Yeah. So every one of these visions has been incredibly important, but none, in my opinion, are as important. Or, well, actually, I think in terms of world building, the seventh vision is more important. In terms of linking the past to the present, the eighth vision,
the fourth vision.
Yeah, that's a good one too. But the
anyway, all the visions.
The ninth vision is where shit starts.
Yup.
And so the entire question we've been asking up until this book, up until the Shadow Rising, has been like, well, how did this shit start? We know there's neither endings or beginnings to the Wheel of Time, but the shit started.
Where is this beginning?
This is where we get to learn about this beginning. And the ninth vision talks about the drilling of the bore. In this one, like Daniel talked about, Rand is Charn. He's a Daishan Aiel servant of Marian Sedai, who becomes Lanfear. In this vision, Charn is 25 years old, having the day that Rand is experiencing is actually his 25th name day or birthday. And he's walking on his way down the city of Visane, yeah. And it's one of the major cities during the Age of Legends, best known as the home of the Kolandan, which was a great university built of silver and blue domes whose architecture was overshadowed only by the Shirome, which was a giant white sphere that floated over the city. So, now that we got that. There are Jokars humming. There's the great white show wings flying across the sky, carrying citizens. But Charn seldom uses them. If there's a need, an Aes Sedai travels with him. He decided to travel to Majin to accept Nal's latest offer for marriage. So he's accepted a marriage proposal, which in and of itself is different from what we know of current IL culture. It's the woman that proposes and picks. No, it's the man that proposes.
Yeah, that's correct. That's exactly correct. Yeah, Nala has proposed to him.
Yeah,
and that is a continuation of the tradition now of that still being true is a continuation of this tradition.
Sorry, I don't know why I got it backwards.
No worries,
but correct. But accepting that, he will then serve Zorel Sedai, whom Nala served. But Marion Sedai has already given her blessing. Or who's to be Lanfear has already given her blessing.
Lanfear.
As he walks, he crashes into a dark-skinned man called Jom and falls, hitting his head. When the man and his female company realize that who they crashed into is a Daishane, they get overly polite, helping, and kind. That's when suddenly the ground ripples under their feet and the air as well spreads in waves. He looks up and sees a tiny chip of white leaving from the Sharome above the Column Dawn. He remembers how Marion explained that today was the day they try to tap the newly discovered source of power, which could be used by both male and female channelers together. Houndrick gouts spurt everywhere, and the huge white sphere breaks apart like an egg, blackening the sky, swallowing the sun as if the light of those flames was blackness. People are screaming everywhere. Charn runs towards the Column Dawn, but knows that he's too late. He has sworn to serve Aes Sedai, and he was too late. Tears rolled down his face as he ran.
Oh.
So there's another thing where this could also be a point where the IL believe that they failed Aes Sedai.
Fair. Though I do definitely think that this is more of a personal failure, or at least that Charn feels a personal failure versus the nationwide failure of turning away from the Way of the Leaf and abandoning the Terangrial and Angrial and whatnot.
Because we know that at this point, whenever she was still Marion Sedai, once she realizes what she's done and just who they released into the world, she instantly is pretty much like, oh shit, I fucked up. No, I mean, I've released you, great lord, great master. I will serve you.
Yes, because at this point, Mirren Sedai is absolutely, without a doubt, in love with Luz Theron like crazy. And he's like, oh yeah, no, we're definitely going to do this for a while. And then I meet Ilyena. And now, fuck off, Mirren Sedai.
If you break open
slash Lanfear.
A new power source, and suddenly the biggest dick energy you've ever seen in existence shows up. I mean,
just comes out and just slaps it right down on the table.
I'm surprised Lanfear still wears white because you know she shit all over herself.
Dude, I just love that idea, though, the idea that you just brought up of like, oh shit, I mean, I just released you, Great Lord, because there's a fucking hilarious meme of the bard who gets brought by a group of 6 cultists along with a bunch of chests of gold to the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Not the dragon of this, but like the Dungeons and Dragons dragon. Yeah. And the cultists say, hey, we've brought you all of this gold and this one sacrifice, great dragon. And the bard says, hey, I've brought you all of this gold and these 6 sacrifices, dragon. And then rolls really well, and the dragon's like, I like you. Duck, and then incinerates all of the cultists, takes the treasure, and flies off. Yes. And that's just like such an like appropriate moment for Lanfear of like the, oh shit, we opened up a board to the, I mean, welcome to the world, great lord. Rolls a natural 20.
Hi. Oop, yeah, natural 20, nat 20 on charisma. Way to go, Lanfear. No, it's so.
I mean, it's interesting because this brings. There's a whole section of prophecies from Wise Ones that are called the prophecies of Rhuidean, and it talks about. Y'all mind if I read through them right now? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them.
Sure, go ahead.
So it is said there will be great signs and portents of his coming. He will come from the west beyond the spine of the world, but be of our blood. He will go to Rhuidean and lead us out of the threefold land. Under his sign, he will conquer. Prophecy says that when the Stone of Tyr falls, some of these are just them reiterating it. Prophecy says that when the Stone of Tyr falls, we will leave the threefold land at last. It says it will be changed and find again what was ours and was lost. We seek the one foretold, he who comes with the dawn. He will lead us out of the threefold land. The prophecies say he was born of Far Darasmai. The wise ones say he is to be found here beyond the dragon wall, blood of our blood mixed with the old blood raised by an ancient blood, not ours. Of course, that was Avienda speaking on He Who Comes with the Dawn.
Yes, but she's quoting a prophecy.
Then there's one that says, no, that one will come later. The stone that never falls will fall to announce his coming of the blood, but not raised by the blood. He will come for Rhuidean at dawn and tie you together with bonds you cannot break. He will take you back and he will destroy you. That was
which we read last time because that's actually in one of the visions.
Yeah, and that's one of the last two Aes Sedai with the Jin Aiel, what they told to Charandon and Aiel Sept Chief. He will spill out the blood of those who call themselves Aiel as water on sand, and he shall break them as dried twigs. Yet a remnant of a remnant shall he save, and they shall live. And that was Bayer on He Who Comes with the Dawn. That prophecy, or who he is.
Just huge.
Yeah.
So much in these visions that, we reading in, the early stages of the series, so early in the book series, we have no idea what the hell all this means.
Yeah, we're infants.
These visions have ramifications all the way through the friggin' last battle. And it's so big. It's so huge. And it's just
the remnant of a remnant thing is interesting.
It's such a great,
because after the battle of
I love it.
After this, I don't want to spoil that.
Cool.
Well, one comment I will make is one of the reasons why Lord of the Rings is such a compelling series that we love so much is because Tolkien didn't write the Lord of the Rings from a perspective of something that he had, thought about and developed. I mean, he did, obviously, but he started with scrawlings and short stories and histories and little things he wrote during during his time, in the trenches of World War One, and wrote little things for his grandchildren and his children, and just wrote little stories and had built Middle Earth centuries prior to writing, the events of The Hobbit. And when it came time to write The Hobbit, he just kind of went, let me just throw this together really quick. But he'd already built this really compelling world in which he was able to do that. He could write that and he could say, here's a society of people and this is how they'd behave. This is the history of these people and this is how they'd behave. And this is what would happen and this is how these people would, and blah, 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 blah. And it made for a really great story because he had built on foundations that were not even part of the story, but that made a more compelling story because it was based on some sort of law or rule inside that universe, right? Robert Jordan then comes along and says, yeah, that times 10.
Oh, yeah. No, it's insane.
And these visions are, if I may be so bold, these visions are sort of our version of the Wheel of Time's version of the Silmarillion.
Kinda.
Only we actually get them in our story.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Tolkien,
rather than needing to read them in another book.
Yeah, we get just enough to make us go, oh,
yeah.
wow.
So Tolkien comes really in and he's like, I'm going to build a world. And he does. And don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic world. I love Lord of the Rings. And
it's wonderful.
Robert Jordan's like, hold my beer. And proceeds to take inspiration from Aladdin and build a whole new world. But the thing,
I see what you did there.
A whole new
the thing I love.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
Hold your breath, it gets better.
But yeah, no, it's
the thing I love is for readers of the series that have made it this far in the series, at a minimum, you get the slimmest of glimpses into what you're going to be doing for the entire remainder of the series, as far as reading something and saying, oh shit, I remember that from way back over here. Like, if you're a reader of the series and you don't take notes or you don't know this, because I didn't even notice this the first time I read, Just the simple
Right.
realization of Semeshta the Nim and the Eighth Vision being the same Nim that Rand and company encountered in the Eye of the World. It's mind-blowing to think of just how old the Nim is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, he is the last of his
absolutely.
kind, but things like that, the singing that we see from Loyal through this part, that you especially see when Semeshta dies. And then you get, there's so much world building into a world that doesn't really exist anymore, that we get glimpses into, and here we get exposed to so much of it. And Robert Jordan has this incredible ability to build a world, build history, build the predating culture to the IL, to link them to the Tuathon,
Right.
the traveling people, which I know I just said the whole tongue name wrong, but
That's fine.
as I always do, but builds those connections to those two groups, which for the remainder of the series, you look at the two and you're like, but you are brother and sister. Why you no get along? Why you have to be mad?
Except that the Aiel would be like, no, they're like second cousins, and they're like that
Yeah,
second
right.
cousin.
So you get the hallmark back to the polished dwarf fame of dark red stone, and you get to look at this
Yeah.
like, because these ancient IL, these Daishan IL, carried this to Rhuidean, it was then in a wagon with Moraine and Rand whenever.
Yes.
Does that happen by Fire of Heaven?
Yeah. No, so stop.
Well,
It just the
All I have
events
to
of
say-
this
all I have to say about-
They
up.
ripple across.
You just beat that out.
all I have to
everywhere.
say about
Yeah.
that accident is
it's just it's so big.
my bad.
Indeed.
But it's important, like, and you'll see it later
Look,
on. I mean,
it's- you
there's so
guys-
much to draw back to
It is.
just in these visions, and the more the series you read, the further you get in the books, the explanation to the chore trees. Because before this, Evan Dorsa is like the pinnacle. It's like the only one that exists, and then you read this, and it's like,
right.
okay, there's a whole
Dude, they
family.
were everywhere.
And then you get to Pear and Decent. It's like these trees were all over the place.
yeah.
So it's only theoretically it's only as special as it is in the modern world. Even after these visions and Rand does what he does, it's only as special in this world because they were destroyed long ago.
There are so few.
And to see the effort,
Yeah.
it was almost like infuriating to see the effort that the Daishine IL went to preserve the Chora Tree family, to bring Avendorsa
And then just
down.
how.
Yes.
And then to bring it to Kyrian and then have fucking Lemon cut it down.
Oh my god. It gives you such a big understanding of why the
I think
IL
sin.
was
I think the
so
phrase
pissed
"sin" is
off
only
yeah,
used
he
once
did
in the
that.
entire book, and it's about layman's sin.
Layman's
It's the only time
sin.
sin is a reference.
Fuck that guy. Fuck
Yes.
that
Absolute
Fuck you.
guy.
And not, I don't mean
All
my
right, guys.
commander. I mean,
All
in the
right.
book.
Well,
my commander's last name is actually Layman.
Well,
different layman.
everybody, well done for bearing with us through this 2-hour episode. Nicely done.
it.
Also, we will definitely go ahead and be talking more about these visions in other episodes. They ripple across the entire universe of the Wheel of Time like crazy. But
It's amazing.
we are going to say goodnight now. But before we do, just real quick, I do want to do a quick shout out to Jack of the Shadows. We did already give you a shout out at the beginning for telling us that we did something wrong. But also 2 weeks ago, we had a quote from a movie that was, "It's not a satchel," or "It's not a man purse, it's called a satchel." Indiana Jones carries one. And Jack of the Shadows did actually tweet us this week, letting us know correctly that was actually from The Hangover. So congratulations to
He
you,
gets
Jack of the
another
Shadows. Well done.
well
That
done,
we did
sir.
last time as well.
Yeah, second shout out.
That
What?
he got the shout out during the first episode as well. But this episode idea
Indeed.
was brought to you by Jack O'Shadows that he suggested on the
Correct.
22nd of August of this year.
Jack, do you just want to be this podcast? Because I
Someone's
feel
gonna
like
take their throne
you're killing
and he can
it.
take it over.
But other than that, we did not actually have a movie quote this week. We're
You know
pressed
what?
for time,
Here's
so
what
we
we'll do.
won't have one this week.
No, I'm not going to get
No.
a quote for a movie.
I'm just kidding.
But the first person to tweet at us the inspiration for this episode's title, Views from the Crystal Forest,
Sure.
where we got the inspiration from, you'll get the shout out. How's that sound?
Yes, indeed. Also,
And it doesn't count if you say
Yeah.
Wheel
yes,
of Time.
correct. Also, FYI, the movie quote from last week, nobody got or tweeted us, which I think at this point we probably are just kind of on a 2-week thing because there are a number of people who are behind, which is great. I'm certainly not saying that being behind is a bad thing. It just means that we'll definitely extend our movie quotes a little longer because a lot of people do not actually get to listen to them in the very first week. So again, if you hear last week's episode and want to shout out for the movie quote, let us know on Twitter or Discord or both, and we'll give you a shout out next week for that, as well as, again, the inspiration for this title.
Yeah, well, he done did say it.
Other than that, guys,
I said, yeah, well,
What?
he done did say it. As I accidentally
Indeed.
opened Steam on my computer.
right? But guys, thank you as always for listening. I know that I say this every week, but I truly mean it. We love talking to each other and it's super fun. But at the end of the day, we would not be a podcast without you. And therefore we do definitely do this for you.
But I do have one
So if
question.
there's anything that we missed this week, please let us know. If there's anything that we did not cover, please let us know. And we will be happy to answer Andrew's
so my question is, and feel free, Daniel or Josh, to answer this, but what is next week?
Oh,
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun,
dun, dun.
dun, dun. Boom, boom,
The
boom,
Black
boom,
Tower
boom, boom,
Podcast
boom.
turns
Dun,
1 years
dun,
old.
dun.
The ultimate hype sound effect.
Yeah. Here anyway.
I mean, I live in South Carolina, and I'm a
yeah,
Gamecock fan, so David
yeah.
Sandstorm is obviously fantastic for me. Even though I don't hear it that much because we lose all the time, but
It's all the things.
Indeed. Well,
It's all
we
the
will
things.
actually be having a special episode next week for our 1-year anniversary. Definitely tune in for that. I believe some of it, at least, is going to be on video. I imagine that some of it may end up being on podcast as well. But we will see.
oh yeah, there'll be a
there.
super. So we're not going to tell you what it is, but coming next week on the 18th on Twitter, and for those of you that are on Discord, we'll take the video and post it to our Discord as well at the same time we release it on Twitter. There will be a special challenge for all of you lovely, lovely listeners, viewers, and people that just happen to love what's in the challenge. But I don't want to spoil it yet.
A
It
challenging
will be
challenge.
very challenging.
Oh, the
I'm
challenge where we
actually
challenge
kind of
ourselves.
terrified.
Couscous.
Challenge accepted.
But until
Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are awesome. Thank you
and
so
if you
much.
have anything to say to us, we are always welcoming criticism, feedback, praise, whatever, on our email at blacktowerpod@gmail.com, as well as on Twitter at Tower Podcast. You can find us on Podbean. If you have not found a good way to listen to the podcast already, then I highly recommend Podbean, as well as it also has some fun narrative stuff
Yes.
and descriptions.
You can
as well as
comment
all of our-
and like on the episodes on Podbean, as well as follow us. The app does a really good job of giving you updates. This is not sponsored in any way, just so you know. But the app does, because I get
Correct.
the notifications now all the time since I've downloaded the Podbean app and use it now. But it does a really good job of notifying you when new episodes release of podcasts you might enjoy, as well as podcasts you follow. It's also a fun way to write comments on, to like, and it shows up separately in our analytics for the podcast downloads rather than saying other platforms. It will tell us Podbean or Apple Podcast or whatever. But if you don't have something to use and you're just listening to this on the website, look on the left-hand side towards the bottom underneath some of our links, and you'll see the link to download it on Apple or Android if you don't already have something. I know for a while I was using a different app. I can't remember what it's called now, though.
Also, if you don't want to use Podbean, but you do want to go ahead and listen, another place where you can find us is YouTube. You can just look up Black Tower Podcast. All of them are posted to our YouTube channel. I recommend going ahead and going with something like Podbean just because it is a little bit better. But again, do what you like, not what I tell you. As well as if you like what we do and you want some extra sauce, as well as some fun other stuff that will be, or that is currently in the works, we would highly appreciate if you wanted to come and support us a little bit on Patreon. You do get some extra pre-show fun, as well as I said, some other things that are coming in the future. So definitely thank you to all of the people who are already on that, and thank you to anybody who is even considering becoming.
The Patreon updates
stuff.
are going to take a little bit longer because Josh
Agreed.
has taken Life's Viagra, known as vacation. So things, but he has also stated that he will be using part of that time, that he should have part of that time to flesh out some final details, which we'll be talking about while Josh is enjoying his amazing vacation. He's been kind enough to talk a little bit to Daniel and I about his timeline. And my mom said, if I can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. So I'm going to be quiet. You lucky
All right. Well, on that
have
note,
a lovely rest of your week. For the Black Tower Podcast, I have been Daniel.
I have been Josh.
And I have been Andrew.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week.
And in the words of Owen Wilson, ka-chow.
Wow.
Oh, wow.